The silence of the coastal cottage is a heavy shroud, woven from salt-laced air and the deep currents of your solitude. You trace the rim of your chipped ceramic mug, the warmth seeping into your fingertips, a small comfort against the persistent chill that seems to emanate not from the gray dawn pressing against the windows, but from somewhere deeper, within your own marrow. Outside, the ocean sighs, a ceaseless lament, echoing the one that has become your constant companion since the world decided you were no longer fit to walk among the righteous. Each morning unfurls the same stark canvas, the same worn armchair, the same unread stack of newspapers, the same haunting absence of purpose. You are Seth Corbin, or what remains of him, a name once synonymous with sharp insight and unwavering resolve, now merely an echo in the empty chambers of a life meticulously stripped bare. They called it a dereliction of duty, a spectacular failure that shattered a career built on meticulous truth-seeking. The Wraith Case, they called it, a phantom killer who slipped through your fingers, leaving behind a trail of grief and a reputation in tatters. You remember the faces of the victims' families, their eyes burning with a desperate plea you ultimately failed to answer. That failure, a brand against your soul, is why you are here now, marooned on this stretch of forgotten coastline, a self-imposed exile. The quiet shatters with the insistent ring of the landline, a jarring intrusion into your carefully constructed isolation. You eye it with a weary suspicion, as if the device itself might carry the contagion of the world you've forsaken. It rings again, then a third time, a relentless summons. Who could it be? Only one person still bothers to breach your quiet fortress. A former colleague whose loyalty, like a stubborn weed, refuses to be uprooted. You pick up the receiver, the plastic cool against your ear. Seth? The voice, rough with unspoken urgency, crackles down the line. You need to hear this. They found another one. Your grip tightens on the phone, knuckles blanching. He was found another one. You say nothing, your breath catching in your throat, a sudden tightness in your chest. It's exactly like the others, Seth. The Wraith's signature. They found him on a yacht at anchor storm closing in, sealed briefcases all over the cabin. No forced entry, no struggle. Just gone, like the others. The detective's voice, usually a steady drumbeat of facts, trembles with a barely contained horror. Always the briefcases, meticulously sealed, their contents a mystery that had driven you to the brink of madness all those years ago. You close your eyes, the past and present blurring. The Wraith Case. It was never solved. You knew it in your gut, a gnawing certainty that had defied every official conclusion, every dismissal of your theories. They called it an obsession, a delusion born of failure. But you knew. And now it had returned. Off the coast, near the old shipping lanes, the yacht was registered to a prominent financier, a man with a very clean, very public life. The detective pauses, then adds, "The scene. It's a mirror, down to the last detail. The way the body was positioned, the peculiar items, even the state of the cabin. It's all there. And the sealed briefcases, Seth. They're identical to the ones from the Carmichael scene, remember? The same antiquated locks, the same obscure manufacturer's stamp. The Carmichael scene. The first of the Wraith's victims. The case that had ignited the firestorm that consumed your career. The briefcases had been the cruelest joke, tantalizingly present, yet impenetrable. You had spent countless hours trying to decipher their meaning, their purpose. What secrets did they hold? What message was the killer sending? A storm is indeed gathering outside, the sky a bruised purple, the wind beginning to whip the waves into a frenzy against the rocks. You can hear the low growl of thunder in the distance, a fitting soundtrack to the tempest brewing within you. The world you had so painstakingly built around yourself, a fortress of quiet regret, is crumbling. "They're calling you in, Seth," the detective says, his voice softer now, almost pleading. Unofficially, of course, the current lead detective. He's out of his depth. He knows about your history with the Carmichael case. He respects your expertise. He thinks you're the only one who might see something they're missing. Respect. Expertise. These words feel alien on your tongue, coated in the bitter taste of past accusations. You had sworn off this life, vowed never to return to the labyrinth of human depravity that had nearly broken you. But the ghost of the Wraith, a specter you thought you had buried, has clawed its way back into the light, dragging your past with it. This isn't just a new case, it's a direct challenge, a personal taunt from a killer who knew your every move, every failure. The details from the detective's call have already begun to weave themselves into the fabric of your memory, connecting threads from a tapestry you thought was long abandoned. This time, you will not fail. This time, you will be waiting. The rain lashes against the glass, a frantic drumbeat against your solitude, a rhythm you'd once found comforting, now merely a reminder of the world's relentless churn. You watch the bruised horizon from your small, cluttered apartment, the city's muted roar a distant hum beneath the rising wind. For years, this quiet decay has been your sanctuary, a self-imposed exile from the sharp edges of human cruelty, from the phantom whispers of a killer you never caught. You thought the Wraith was a ghost, a lingering stain on your past, but the news reports, fragmented and evasive, have begun to paint a familiar, chilling tableau. A sharp rapping at your door, insistent, cuts through the downpour's symphony. You don't entertain visitors. Your life, carefully constructed from splinters of what remained, has no room for unexpected intrusions. But the rapping persists, a rhythm that suggests desperation, a plea for entry that grates against your carefully cultivated apathy. Reluctantly, you pull open the door, only a crack, revealing the stoic face of the detective, his trench coat shedding rivulets onto your floorboards. His eyes, though weary, hold a glint of the old respect, a recognition of the mind he once admired. Just like the others, he knows. He knows you are the only one who truly understands the Phantom. They're calling it an isolated incident, he continues, stepping inside, his presence filling the cramped space with an unwelcome urgency. But you and I both know better. This isn't isolated. This is a resurgence. He doesn't press. He never did. He simply lays out the facts, letting them sink into the fertile ground of your unwilling expertise. The victim, a curator from a small gallery. The location, an abandoned warehouse on the waterfront, eerily pristine despite its dereliction. No one understands the pattern like you do. Disgraced, dismissed, discreet, away from prying ears. It suggests a level of secrecy, a cache of information that can't be discussed within the precinct walls. The storm, too, adds a layer of isolation, a crucible for a conversation that could shatter the fragile peace you've built. You consider his offer, the image of the carved bird fluttering in your mind's eye. The Wraith. You had failed once. The thought gnaws at you, a relentless ache. Fine. You concede. The word, a rasp. But no promises. I'm only looking. The journey to the marina is a blur of rain and flashing streetlights. The air is thick with the scent of salt and impending deluge. Below deck, the cabin is surprisingly warm, a stark contrast to the tempest outside. On a polished mahogany table, 2 heavy leather-bound briefcases sit, their clasps gleaming, their contents a mystery waiting to unfold. "Everything we have so far," the detective states, indicating the briefcases. "And some of the old files, too. The ones you kept." He unlocks one, revealing stacks of photographs, forensic reports, and witness statements. The new victim, Eleanor Vance, 34, art curator, single, no known enemies, vanished 3 nights ago. He was found this morning. You lean closer, your eyes scanning the grim images. The warehouse, sterile despite the grime. The meticulously arranged scene. It's identical to the one found years ago, the one that had haunted your dreams. This is the event, the undeniable proof that the past has returned. The cause of death is still pending, the detective murmurs, but the preliminary report suggests. He trails off, his voice tight. The method is the same, Seth. The precise ligature marks, the lack of struggle, the way they were posed. You run a finger over a photograph of the victim's face, a ghost of a frown on your brow. The meticulousness, the absence of any trace evidence beyond the signature calling card. It's all too familiar. This isn't a copycat. The phantom you thought you had buried has indeed clawed its way back into the living world, demanding your attention, demanding retribution for your past failure. The storm outside rages, mirroring the tempest that has just begun to brew within you. The victim's eyes, fixed in an eternal, vacant stare from the grainy photograph, are a mirror to your own haunted past. You trace the cold edge of the image, the familiar knot tightening in your gut. The meticulousness, the sterile absence of any discernible trace beyond the signature. It all screams a name you've tried to forget. This demands your attention, your singular, relentless focus. The old files, yellowed and brittle, still reside in the forgotten corners of your life, tucked away like painful souvenirs. You retrieve them from a dusty crate in your small rented storage unit, the air thick with the scent of forgotten paper and stale regret. Each folder, each plastic sleeve, holds a fragment of the life you once lived, the career you painstakingly built and then watched crumble. You spread them across the worn surface of your kitchen table, a mosaic of despair. Photographs of the previous victims, crime scene reports, witness statements that led nowhere, forensic analyses that yielded nothing but frustration. You pore over them, a sculptor examining a flawed masterpiece, searching for the crack you missed, the tiny fissure in the killer's impenetrable design. Your fingers, calloused from years of gripping a service weapon and now from simple manual labor, glide over the precise language of official reports. You search for a deviation, a tremor in the pattern, anything that distinguishes the old from the new. The previous cases, each a testament to meticulous planning, presented victims found in isolated, almost ceremonial settings. And the lack of evidence, that was always the loudest scream. The new case, however, remains a phantom, officially beyond your reach. He agrees to meet. A clandestine exchange under the shroud of a brewing storm. You navigate the winding roads leading to the city's private docks, the air growing heavy with the promise of rain. The sky above is a bruised canvas of purple and gray, reflecting the turmoil within you. A figure emerges from the cabin, a man whose face bears the tired lines of too many late nights and too many compromises. He is the contact, a silent nod passing between you, acknowledging the unspoken risks. He gestures you aboard, the deck swaying gently beneath your feet as the first fat drops of rain begin to splatter against the polished wood. Inside, the cabin is dim, lit only by the faint glow of the approaching tempest through the portholes. On the small, polished table, 2 sealed briefcases rest, their clasps gleaming. "This is all I could get," the contact murmurs, his voice a low rumble against the rising wind. "Untraceable copies. Don't ask how." You don't. You simply nod, your gaze fixed on the briefcases, knowing they hold the raw, unfiltered truth of the new horror. The tension in the air is palpable, a taut wire stretched between the threat of exposure and the desperate need for answers. The storm outside begins to rage in earnest, the yacht groaning against its moorings, the rain a relentless drumming against the cabin roof. You open the first briefcase. Inside, nestled amongst protective foam, are photographs. Fresh, stark, digital prints of the new victim. Her face, the one you saw in the initial image, now laid bare in horrifying detail. You spread them out, aligning them with the aged photographs of the previous victims from your own files. The similarities are immediate, visceral. The meticulous arrangement of the body, the absence of defensive wounds, the signature calling card, a single, perfectly preserved white orchid placed delicately on her chest. But then, as your eyes move from one tableau to the next, a subtle discord begins to hum beneath the surface of the terrifying familiarity. You compare the positioning of the orchid. In the old cases, it was always laid precisely over the heart, its stem pointing towards the victim's left shoulder. A consistent, almost ritualistic placement. Yet, in the new photographs, the orchid, identical in species and pristine condition, lies just slightly off-center, its stem angled towards the right shoulder. A minute detail, easily dismissed as an accidental shift or an inconsequential variation. But in the context of such meticulousness, it feels like a deliberate, almost mocking departure. The angle of the stem, the way it rests against the fabric of the victim's clothing. It's a difference of mere degrees, yet it gnaws at you. The killer, or a killer, is a creature of habit, a perfectionist. Why this deviation? Is it a sign of a new hand, a student mimicking the master? Or is it a message, a subtle shift in the killer's personal ritual, a deliberate evolution in their terrifying craft? You open the second briefcase. Inside, digital copies of initial crime scene reports, preliminary forensic findings. You scan the text, your eyes devouring every word, every observation. The lack of trace evidence, the sterile environment, the precise time of discovery, all align with the old pattern. But then you find it. A minor note, almost an afterthought in the preliminary report. The victim's left shoe, though still on her foot, was loosely tied. In all previous cases, the footwear was either removed or meticulously secured. Another minute detail, another almost imperceptible shift in the killer's otherwise unblemished surgical precision. These aren't just minor discrepancies. These are deliberate, subtle alterations to a long-established, terrifying signature. They speak of a mind that is either evolving or one that is sending a message. The vessel, a sleek beast of polished wood and gleaming brass, groaned beneath the tempest's lash. Rain hammered the cabin's portholes, each gust a phantom fist against the reinforced glass. You stood in the confined space, the low thrum of the engine a counterpoint to the wind's mournful howl, your gaze fixed on the two metallic briefcases resting on the polished mahogany table. Their clasps, glinting under the oscillating overhead light, seemed to mock the fragile peace of the room. A colleague, the sharp lines of their face etched with a similar grim resolve, watched you. They had brought them here, away from prying eyes, away from the bureaucratic grind, into the churning heart of the storm. A deep breath filled your lungs with the scent of brine and old wood. Your fingers, a roadmap of old scars, reached for the first case. The click of the latches was a stark punctuation mark in the silence that followed the storm's momentary lull. You lifted the lid. Inside, a meticulously ordered universe of horror awaited. Glossy photographs, stark and unforgiving, lay atop a stack of reports. The first image was a wide shot of the scene. A stark, desolate warehouse, its corrugated iron skin ripped open like a tin can. Then closer, the victim. A young man, rendered almost abstract by the brutal artistry of his demise. Your stomach twisted, a familiar knot of dread tightening. Crime scene sketches, detailed and disturbing, charted the killer's movements. Forensics reports, dry and clinical, cataloged the wounds, the absence of struggle, the signature elements that screamed recognition. Each page turned was a step back in time, a phantom echo of the case that had shattered your world. The killer had evolved, grown bolder, but the meticulous cruelty, the profound disregard for life, remained unchanged. "It's him, isn't it?" The colleague's voice, low and strained, cut through the cabin's heavy air. They stood opposite you, their knuckles white where they gripped the table's edge. A morbid calling card. The Nightshade Killer. The name, whispered in the hushed halls of forgotten investigations, clawed at the back of your throat. You reached for the second briefcase. Breaking its seal felt like crossing a threshold, stepping into a deeper, more treacherous current. Inside, more files. Autopsy reports, witness statements, the raw data of the new tragedy. You sifted through them, your mind a whirlwind of patterns and discrepancies, searching for the thread that connected this horror to the one that had consumed your career. It wasn't an evidence tag, nor a forensic sample. It was a faded, sepia-toned photograph. Its edges were softened with age, the paper slightly buckled. You picked it up, your thumb brushing against the smooth, cool surface. It was a picture of a little girl. He was laughing, caught mid-skip in a sun-dappled park, a small, hand-carved wooden bird clutched in her tiny fist. Your breath hitched. The world tilted on its axis. The storm outside seemed to recede, replaced by the deafening roar of your own blood in your ears. This wasn't just a little girl. This was your little girl, Amelia, almost 2 decades younger, a ghost from a life you'd tried to bury. The wooden bird in her hand was a gift you'd carved for her, a small, private token of affection from a time before everything fell apart. Your gaze snapped to the bottom right corner of the photograph. Scrawled in neat, almost elegant script was a single date. Not the date the picture was taken, but a date from the near future, just 3 days from now. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a random item. The killer knew about Amelia, knew about the bird, knew about your past, your deepest vulnerabilities. They weren't just mimicking the old case. They were orchestrating a personal vendetta, dragging your daughter's ghost into the present horror. "Seth?" the colleague asked. You simply held out the photograph, your hand shaking uncontrollably. The blood drained from their face, leaving a mask of pale shock. The storm outside intensified, a fresh wave crashing against the yacht, sending a shiver through its sturdy frame. This wasn't just an investigation anymore. This was a hunt. And you, Seth Corbin, were no longer the hunter. You were the hunted, marked by a phantom from your past, who had just issued a brutal, deeply personal challenge. The game had just begun, and your daughter, or her memory, was now the prize. The colleague's breath hitched, a sharp, ragged sound tearing through the quiet office. Their gaze, once merely curious, now held a mirror to your own burgeoning horror. The photograph, a stark testament to a life brutally cut short, trembled in their grasp. The young face, innocent and unaware, stared back from the glossy surface. The date beneath it, a cruel echo of a past you desperately tried to bury. Then, their eyes dropped to the chilling inscription, the one you'd seen 1,000 times in your nightmares, the signature of a ghost you'd failed to exorcise. T. The word died on their lips, a strangled whisper, the implication too vast, too monstrous to fully articulate. You watched the color drain from their face, watched recognition bloom into a stark, unyielding dread. This wasn't just another case. This was a resurfacing, a malevolent tide pulling you back into the undertow of your greatest failure. The air in the room grew heavy, thick with unspoken questions, with the ghosts of victims long unavenged. The official investigation, however, moved with a different kind of urgency. The detective, a sharp-suited figure with weary eyes and an air of practiced authority, presented their findings with an almost clinical detachment. A disgruntled former business partner, recently fired from the victim's burgeoning enterprise, became the primary focus. The evidence, circumstantial yet compelling, piled up. A history of threats, a recent altercation, a financial motive that seemed to fit neatly into the narrative of a crime of passion or revenge. You heard the murmurs, saw the nods of agreement from the other officers, the inscription, the date, the meticulous nature of the crime. These were not the impulsive acts of a jilted associate. This was the work of a phantom, a meticulous artisan of death. They could chase their red herring. You would chase the truth, the one that hummed beneath the surface, a discordant note in their tidy symphony. You moved in the periphery, a ghost among the living, sifting through the discarded fragments of the official inquiry. You revisited the initial crime scene, not looking for what was found, but for what was missed. The victim's apartment, now a sterile tableau under the forensic lights, offered little. It detailed a recent acquisition, a luxury vessel and its current mooring. A private purchase, discreet, made just weeks before the murder. The sea air whipped at your coat as you approached the dock, the sky above bruised purple with the promise of a storm. A lone crew member, bundled against the worsening weather, stood watch, their face obscured by the rising wind. You offered a plausible explanation, a fabricated story about a forgotten delivery, and their weary nod granted you passage. The interior of the yacht was opulent, yet unsettlingly quiet. Plush carpets muffled your footsteps as you moved through the main salon, the scent of polished wood and expensive leather clinging to the air. The rain began to lash against the portholes, each gust of wind making the vessel creak and groan, a living thing straining against its tethers. You ignored the grand furnishings, the glittering bar, your gaze sweeping for anything out of place, anything that spoke of a deeper, more insidious purpose. In the owner's stateroom, a heavy oak desk dominated the space. On its surface, neatly arranged, sat 3 briefcases, each secured with intricate combination locks. Sealed briefcases, just as the manifest had implied. This was no ordinary pleasure craft. It was a mobile vault, a floating repository of secrets. You ran your gloved fingers over the cold metal, a strange intuition guiding you. The victim had been a meticulous man, obsessed with order. These briefcases wouldn't be random. The first 2 remained stubbornly locked. But the third, with a soft, almost imperceptible click, yielded. Inside, nestled amongst innocuous-looking financial documents, you found it. A series of photographs, identical in their format to the one you'd shown your colleague, but depicting different faces. Each portrait, a young man or woman, vibrant and full of life, bore the same date beneath it, a date from years past. And on the back of each, scrawled in the same distinctive hand, was the same unsettling inscription, the very one that had haunted your career. The storm outside intensified, the yacht swaying violently, but you barely noticed. Your breath hitched, not from fear, but from the crushing weight of revelation. This wasn't about a disgruntled business partner. This wasn't a new killer. This was a pattern, an elaborate tapestry woven over decades. The official suspect was a diversion, a convenient scapegoat. The phantom killer had never left. They had simply evolved, their canvas expanding, their methods perfecting. The list was not complete. Your breath, a shallow, ragged thing, mirrors the colleagues across the desk. The photograph, still clutched in their trembling fingers, shows a young face, now irrevocably marred. You reach for it, a silent gesture of taking on the burden. The glossy paper slides into your palm, cool against your skin, but the image sears. Another victim, another echo, the same brutal finality. The scene. It was clean, Seth, the colleague says, their voice hushed, a fragile whisper against the hum of the old office. Almost too clean. But there was this oddity. A small red gaming token, like from an old casino. We logged it as miscellaneous debris, likely dropped by a previous occupant, but it felt wrong. A red token. The phrase hangs in the air, a fleeting wisp of sound, easily dismissed. You nod, your gaze still fixed on the photograph, searching the background for any detail, any distortion the camera might have captured. Nothing. Just the brutal truth of what happened. You hand the photo back, the weight of it too much to carry for a moment longer. Hours later, the world outside turns a bruised purple, then a deep, impenetrable black. The air grows heavy, thick with the promise of rain. The rocking motion is gentle now, but you know it will soon become violent. The wind begins to whistle through the rigging, a mournful prelude. Your fingers, restless and raw, sift through the meticulously organized contents of the briefcases. Old case files, the ghosts of your past, laid bare under the cabin's dim glow. The new victim's report, a crisp white beacon of fresh horror, lies at the center of the chaotic spread. Your eyes scan the typed words, the forensic notes, the inventory of found items. And there it is, tucked away in the miscellaneous section. 1-1. Red, plastic disc, approximately 1.5 inches in diameter, resembling a gaming token. A flicker. Not a spark, not yet. Just a faint, almost imperceptible tremor in the landscape of your memory. A red token. The colleague's quiet observation returns, unbidden, gaining substance. You dismiss it for a moment, as coincidence. The mind seeks patterns where none exist, especially when desperate. You lean back, the leather creaking softly beneath you, and close your eyes. The image of the new victim. The quiet office. The colleague's voice. A small red gaming token. A slow, deliberate breath fills your lungs, then escapes in a controlled release. You plunge back into the old files, your movements now imbued with a frantic urgency. The first case. The one that broke you. The one that stole your sleep and your reputation. You flip past the gruesome photographs, the endless witness statements, the dead-end leads. You seek the overlooked, the discarded, the insignificant. Page after page, your eyes devour the old reports. The victim from the riverbank, discovered decades ago. The victim from the abandoned factory. The one found near the old dockyards. Each death a stark, chilling echo of the last. You pore over the inventory lists, the evidence logs, the microscopic details that were once deemed irrelevant. And then you find it. In the file for the riverbank victim, listed under unidentified objects. 1-1 crimson plastic disc, circular, bearing no discernible markings. Believed to be child's plaything or discarded refuse. Your breath catches. Crimson. Red. Plastic disc. The abandoned factory victim. Small, round, scarlet-colored marker, possibly a gaming chip, found near the victim's left hand. Scarlet. Another shade of red. Another disc. The third file. The dockyards. A single vermilion token made of synthetic material, approximately the size of a quarter. No evidential value. Vermilion. Token. The yacht rocks with more insistence now, a rhythmic thudding against the hull. You spread the new report, the old reports, across the table, connecting the entries with a frantic, invisible thread. Each description, though varied in its phrasing, points to the same object. A red, circular gaming token. It's not just any token. You remember something from a forgotten article, a fleeting bit of local history. A casino, long since shuttered, famous for its distinctive bright red chips. The Golden Siren, wasn't it? Closed abruptly after a scandal decades ago. Its tokens, once ubiquitous, became collector's items or simply forgotten detritus. You find a dusty, forgotten photo in one of the old case files. A blurry shot of the crime scene from the riverbank victim. A ghost. The killer isn't just leaving a calling card, a symbol of their past, perhaps, or a mockery of the fleeting nature of luck and chance. This isn't random. This isn't coincidence. This is a meticulously planned series of murders, each one punctuated by the same silent blood-red promise. The storm outside intensifies, a furious drumming against the cabin windows mirroring the violent surge of understanding within you. The phantom killer, the one you failed to catch, has been leaving you messages, tiny, silent breadcrumbs for years. And you, in your blindness, had walked right past them. The hunt is on, Seth Corbin, and it's far more personal and elaborate than you ever imagined. The Scarlet Disc, a silent, mocking echo across decades, sears itself into your vision. Not just a marker, you realize, but a signature, overlooked, dismissed, until now. Your determination, long dormant beneath layers of bitterness, ignites, a slow burn that promises to consume every obstacle. This tiny plastic circle is a thread, thin as a spider's silk, but strong enough, you pray, to lead you through the killer's labyrinth. You spend the next hours immersed in the digital detritus of specialized forums, the obscure corners where enthusiasts barter and boast. The gaming chip from the abandoned factory victim's file had always felt off, too generic for its specific mention. Now, with the word Scarlet echoing, you seek something more precise. It's not poker, not blackjack. Your fingers fly across the keyboard, a relentless rhythm, sifting through images of antique board games, forgotten parlor pastimes, until a flicker catches your eye. A deep crimson, almost black in some light, a distinctive raised crest. A game of strategy, esoteric and rare, popular among a certain affluent circle decades ago, its pieces collector's items now. The Crimson Gambit, a game whispered about in hushed tones, its value tied to its scarcity and the intellectual prowess it demanded. The online trail, though faint, eventually leads you to a name, or, rather, an alias, the Curator. This digital phantom, a known collector of Crimson Gambit sets, had recently acquired a complete, pristine Scarlet set, rumored to be one of the last remaining. The Curator's last known physical contact, a hushed transaction, involved a luxury yacht charter. The pieces begin to align, a chilling mosaic. The sky weeps as you approach the marina, a leaden curtain descending, obscuring the horizon. The air tastes of salt and impending storm, a fitting prelude to the confrontation you seek. Far out, bobbing with a surprising grace against the churning gray-green water, sits a sleek vessel, its lines sharp against the bruised heavens. This is it. You secure a small, rented skiff, the kind used by maintenance crews, its engine a low thrum against the rising wind. The journey across the choppy expanse is a battle against the elements, the waves slapping at the bow, threatening to swamp your fragile craft. Your hands, calloused and steady, grip the tiller, eyes fixed on the distant gleam of the yacht's polished hull. The spray tastes metallic, like an old memory. Reaching the yacht, you tie off your skiff to a stern cleat, the rope biting into the metal. The wind howls, a banshee's cry, drowning out the creak of the yacht's rigging. The deck is slick, abandoned to the storm, save for the faint hum of internal systems. No sign of a crew, no welcoming lights. Only the vast, indifferent ocean and the yacht's silent promise of secrets. The main cabin, accessed through a sliding glass door, is bathed in the soft glow of recessed lighting. You step inside, your wet boots leaving faint prints on the plush carpet. And then you see him, the collector. He sits in a high-backed leather chair, facing a large wall-mounted screen displaying intricate financial data. His back is to you, a silhouette against the flickering numbers. His hair, a distinguished silver, catches the light. The pieces, an entire Scarlet set, gleam under the soft light, mirroring the disc that haunted your dreams. The collector stiffens, then slowly, deliberately, turns. His eyes, a startling pale blue, hold no surprise, only a cool, unnerving assessment. A faint, almost imperceptible smile plays on his lips. He's older than you expected, his face etched with sharp, intelligent lines. "Seth Corbin," he murmurs, his voice smooth, cultured. "I wondered when you would finally arrive." Your breath catches. He knows your name. This is a trap, or perhaps a long-awaited audience. The air crackles with unspoken threats. "You knew I was coming?" You press, your gaze sweeping the cabin, searching for an escape, a weapon, anything. He gestures to the chair opposite him, a graceful, unhurried motion. A man who chases ghosts eventually finds himself haunted. And a ghost, Seth, tends to leave a trail. His eyes drift to the scarlet pieces on the board. These little markers, so distinctive. He's confirming it. He's confirming everything. "The victims," you accuse, your voice low, tight. "The scarlet discs, you leave them." He inclines his head slightly. A flourish, a nod to the game. They look new, expensive, their clasps glinting. What secrets do they hold? More scarlet markers? Trophies? What do you want? You demand, ignoring the briefcases for now, focusing on the immediate threat. "To finish the game, Seth." He replies, his pale eyes glinting with a predatory intelligence. "And to see if this time you can truly win." Before you can react. A sudden violent lurch of the yacht throws you off balance. The storm outside has intensified, battering the vessel with renewed fury. The lights flicker, then dim, plunging the cabin into a deeper twilight. Not towards you, but towards the table. A sharp, metallic click echoes in the sudden quiet as the yacht rights itself, the lights returning to a steady glow. He is no longer by the table. The sealed briefcases lie untouched, tantalizingly close, yet impossibly far. The collector raises the pistol, his finger tightening on the trigger. The wind howls, a rising crescendo, as if the very storm conspires with your adversary. You have found your lead, confronted your ghost, and now you stand at the precipice of obliteration, the game's final deadly move poised to play out. You have a choice, Seth. The collector's gaze is a flint strike, cold and unwavering, reflected in the polished steel of the barrel. The yacht pitches violently, a sudden surge of the tempest sending a cascade of seawater sluicing across the cabin windows, momentarily blinding your adversary. This is your fractured second. You drop, not backward, but forward, a desperate lunge, your shoulder a battering ram against the collector's midsection. The pistol discharges, a deafening crack that echoes even over the storm's fury, the bullet embedding itself with a sharp thud into the bulkhead where your head had been moments before. The impact sends a jolt through you both. He stumbles back, breath knocked from his lungs, his grip on the weapon momentarily slack. You twist, a blur of motion, wrenching the pistol from his grasp. It's heavier than you expect, cold and slick in your hand. The collector, gasping, scrambles for purchase on the rocking floor, his eyes wide with a sudden dawning fear. He sees the resolve in your face, the ghost of the detective you once were. The storm outside intensifies, the yacht groaning like a wounded beast, its timbers protesting the relentless assault. You don't aim to kill, only to subdue. A swift, precise strike to the temple with the pistol's butt sends him sprawling, unconscious, a heap against the plush seating. The air in the cabin, though still charged, feels suddenly thin. Your eyes, sharp and hungry, dart to the sealed briefcases. They gleam under the cabin lights, mocking you with their proximity, their secrets. Your hands, trembling slightly from adrenaline, reach for the clasps. These aren't simple locks. They're designed for discretion, for secrecy. You remember the small, almost imperceptible etching on the side of one of the latches, a detail you'd noted when the collector had first displayed them. A specific sequence, a pressure point. Your fingers, guided by instinct and memory, work quickly. A soft click, then another. The first briefcase springs open with a sigh. A tarnished silver locket, its delicate chain broken. a sheaf of faded letters bound with a silk ribbon. The victim whose death had been the catalyst for your professional ruin. This isn't just a memento. It's a signature, a mocking echo. Your gaze falls on the letters, the script elegant, almost artistic. You pull one free, careful not to disturb the brittle paper. It's from years before the first murder, addressed to the victim, signed simply, "Your devoted friend, the curator." The curator. The word hangs in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. The man who had always been present at the periphery of the original investigation, offering condolences, insights, always seemingly helpful, always just a step away from suspicion. The individual who possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of artifacts, a refined appreciation for the macabre, and an uncanny ability to blend into the background. Suddenly, a new, horrifying piece of the puzzle clicks into place. You remember a detail from the initial police report, buried in the archives, about the victim's home. A collection of rare, antique dolls, each one meticulously restored, each one a testament to the collector's artistry. The curator had been the one to identify their value, to catalog them for the estate. And the method of the subsequent killings, the staged scenes, the symbolic placements, each body a macabre exhibit. Inside, a leather-bound journal. It speaks of perceived betrayals, of stolen legacies, of a profound, unaddressed injustice surrounding a family inheritance tied to those very artifacts, those dolls. The first victim, it details, had been the initial target, a warning. The others, mere stepping stones, sacrifices in a grand, twisted narrative of reclamation. The motive crystallizes, sharp and cruel, not just revenge, but a reclaiming of what the killer believed was rightfully theirs. A twisted form of artistic expression, punishing those who had benefited from the perceived theft. The curator, a figure of quiet academic authority, obsessed with preserving history, had instead been orchestrating its brutal recreation. He hadn't just identified the dolls, he had craved them, believed them to be his birthright, stolen by the first victim's family. A low moan from the unconscious collector draws your attention. He was merely a pawn, a desperate man hired to retrieve what the curator considered his property, the final pieces of a puzzle he had spent decades arranging. The storm outside rages, a fitting backdrop to the tempest now brewing within you. The phantom killer has a face, Seth, and you know it. The curator. The name, a cold, sharp blade, carves through the fog of your mind. It settles with the weight of a lead ingot, dragging you back to the periphery of every crime scene, every hushed condolence, every carefully offered insight. That encyclopedic knowledge, once admired, now a chilling testament to meticulous obsession. The phantom killer never left. He merely curated his return. A desperate urgency propels you through the city's slick arteries. The rain, a fine mist earlier, now lashes with intent, mirroring the storm brewing within you. The address, scrawled on a napkin from a forgotten coffee shop, feels less like a destination and more like a precipice. You arrive at the dock, the air thick with brine and the promise of tempest. The world is a canvas of churning gray and black. Waves slap against pilings with increasing ferocity. It's a vessel of sleek, predatory lines, a fitting stage for a final, twisted performance. You leap from your vehicle, the wind immediately snatching at your coat, plastering your hair to your face. The gangplank sways ominously. Each step is a deliberate act of defiance against the rising gale. The yacht groans, a living thing battling the sea. Inside, the cabin is awash in the dim, shifting light filtering through the storm-streaked windows. The air is heavy with the scent of old wood, salt, and something metallic, faintly acrid. And then you see him. Each item, you realize with a jolt, belongs to a victim stretching back decades, a macabre trophy room. His eyes, usually placid, now gleam with a manic intensity. "Seth," he says, his voice unnervingly calm above the rising shriek of the wind. "You always were persistent. A quality I admire, even in those who fail to grasp the grand design." Your gaze sweeps past him, settling on the true horror. In the center of the cabin, lashed to a polished mahogany table, is a figure, still and pale. The event is unfolding, the final brushstroke on his canvas of malice. You need answers, a confession. You need to understand the twisted logic that built this monument of depravity. What design could justify this, you monster? He chuckles, a dry, rustling sound. "Justice, Seth. A restoration of balance. My family. Our legacy. It was desecrated by opportunists, by those who saw only profit where there should have been reverence. My father, a brilliant scholar, had his life's work stolen, his name slandered, all for the sake of a few coins. Your initial investigation, Seth, it missed the crucial point. It focused on the petty crimes, never the profound betrayal." He gestures towards a stack of sealed briefcases resting on a nearby settee, their surfaces gleaming dully in the dim light. "These contain the true history. The documents that prove my family's intellectual property, their rightful place in the annals of discovery, stolen by the very people you sought to protect. Each victim, they were descendants of those who profited from our ruin, or those who unwittingly perpetuated the lie. The reveal shatters the last vestiges of doubt. His motive isn't random madness. It's a meticulously calculated vendetta, a twisted attempt to reclaim a stolen legacy, fueled by generations of simmering resentment. The curator, a guardian of history, had become its executioner. You're avenging a ghost, you state, the realization a bitter taste in your mouth, and destroying lives in the process. A ghost with a very real claim, he counters, his voice hardening. This yacht, Seth, it was my grandfather's, the very vessel he nearly lost everything to keep, a symbol of our last shred of dignity. Tonight, it will bear witness to the final act of reclamation. The storm, you see, is a cleansing force. It will wash away the past, leaving only my truth. He takes a step towards the bound woman, a small, wickedly sharp blade glinting in his hand. He isn't just confessing. He's celebrating. And you are the final, unwelcome guest at his unholy communion. The yacht lurches violently, throwing you off balance, but your eyes remain fixed on the curator, on the glint of the blade, and the desperate muffled sounds from the young woman. The stakes have never been higher. Your reputation, your career, your sanity, they all pale before the immediate visceral need to stop him, here, now, before the storm claims its final innocent victim. The small, wickedly sharp blade, a sliver of malevolent moonlight caught by the flickering cabin lamp, descends. Time fractures, a mosaic of storm-lashed glass. You launch yourself forward, a primal roar tearing from your throat, the taste of salt and fear sharp on your tongue. The deck shifts violently beneath your feet, a cruel partner to your desperate lunge. Your shoulder slams into the killer's midsection, a jarring impact that sends a jolt through your bones. He stumbles, the blade's trajectory veering wildly, missing the bound woman's throat by a breath. His snarl is a guttural counterpoint to the tempest raging outside, a sound of pure, unadulterated fury. You grapple for the knife, your fingers closing around his wrist, skin slick with sweat and the spray that now breaches the yacht's small windows. The confined space of the galley becomes a churning vortex of limbs and grunts. A wave smashes against the hull, throwing you both against a bulkhead. The impact rattles your teeth, a blinding flash of pain in your temple. You refuse to release your grip. This is it. The culmination of years, of ghosts, of shattered reputation. He twists, a desperate, surprising strength in his frame, fueled by a fanaticism you now understand. His free hand claws at your eyes, then finds your throat, pressing down with crushing force. Air abandons your lungs. Spots dance at the edge of your vision, but you see the glint of the blade still in his grasp, inches from your face. His eyes, wide and manic, hold a chilling triumph. They all deserved it, he hisses, words strained. The corrupt, the blind. You. The accusation ignites a fresh surge of adrenaline. You pivot, using the rocking of the yacht to your advantage, twisting your body and slam his arm against the steel railing of the galley. A sickening crack echoes over the storm's roar. The knife clatters to the deck, a dull metallic chime against the rocking wood. He cries out, a raw, wounded sound, but his grip on your throat remains. You bring your knee up, a desperate, precise strike. He gasps, doubling over, releasing his hold. You seize the moment, grabbing the back of his head and driving it forward, a dull thud as his forehead connects with the bulkhead. His body goes limp, collapsing to the deck in a heap. He is still, breathing shallowly, but still. A profound silence, broken only by the shriek of the wind and the groan of the yacht, descends. Your lungs burn, a ragged symphony of relief and exhaustion. You collapse onto your knees, hands trembling, heart hammering a frantic rhythm against your ribs. You drag in a deep, shuddering breath, the air tasting of salt, ozone, and the metallic tang of blood. Your own, from a shallow gash on your forehead. You crawl towards her, fumbling with the ropes, your fingers clumsy with the aftershocks of the confrontation. As the last knot gives way, she pulls her hands free, rubbing her wrists, tears tracing clean paths through the grime on her cheeks. Your gaze drifts to the killer, then to the sealed briefcases. One of them, jostled violently during the struggle, lies slightly ajar, its contents spilling onto the wet deck. Old, yellowed photographs, documents with faded ink, a meticulously kept journal, its leather cover water-stained. You pick up one of the photographs, a group portrait of a dozen men and women, smiling, oblivious. You flip through the journal. The cramped, precise handwriting details a meticulous vendetta spanning decades. Entries chronicle not just the murders, but the perceived injustices that fueled them. Corrupt dealings, cover-ups, betrayals within a forgotten, powerful consortium. The killer, a forgotten clerk, driven to madness by a family ruined, a legacy erased, had sworn to dismantle them all, one by one. The killer wasn't just a monster. He was a meticulous archivist of his own warped crusade. The yacht's radio crackles to life, a voice distorted by static. Corbin? Seth, do you copy? This is the detective. We're approaching the coordinates. What's your status? You reach for the receiver, your hand still shaking. I copy. You manage, your voice raw. It's over. He's here, and the evidence. It's all here. The storm, as if acknowledging the end of its own furious reign, begins to recede. The wind softens its shriek, the waves lose their violent crest. The first slivers of dawn, pale and hesitant, pierce through the bruised clouds, painting the horizon in hues of bruised purple and gray. You look at the unconscious killer, then at the scattered photographs and the open journal. The phantom, the ghost that haunted your career, your life, is finally, undeniably corporeal. The justice you sought, the truth you chased, is laid bare on this storm-battered deck, a grim, undeniable victory. But the cost, etched in the lines around your eyes and the ache in your bones, feels immeasurable. The storm, as if acknowledging the end of its own furious reign, begins to recede. The figure you brought down lies prone, a dark silhouette against the pale teak. The weapon, a slender, honed piece of metal, gleams dully where it fell. You kneel, not to gloat, but to confirm. Around you, the proof of their elaborate deceit lays exposed. The 2 briefcases, once meticulously sealed, now gape open. Their contents spill across the wet deck. A ledger, bound in worn leather, detailing dates and locations that map precisely to the decades of unsolved disappearances. A collection of photographs, yellowed with age, each a victim, their faces innocent, unaware, and a series of meticulously drawn blueprints, intricate schematics of the abandoned factory, the underground bunker, the warehouse by the docks. But it is the final item, a small silver locket engraved with a single elegant initial, a V, that truly makes your breath catch. It's identical to the one found clutched in the hand of the very first victim, the case that shattered your world. This is not just evidence. It is a confession carved in metal, a ghost made solid. A faint, distant hum grows louder, slicing through the dawn's hush. A Coast Guard vessel, its lights blinking, approaches. The other detective, a weary but determined silhouette, steps onto the gangplank first, followed by a trio of uniformed officers. Their eyes, sharp and assessing, take in the scene. The subdued figure, the scattered evidence, the exhausted figure of Seth Corbin standing amidst it all. There's no accusation in their gaze now, only a dawning comprehension, a quiet awe. "Seth?" the other detective says, their voice low, tinged with disbelief and a grudging respect. "You found them." You simply nod, the words caught somewhere between your throat and your chest. The truth, ugly and intricate, lies exposed on the deck. The full, horrifying scope of the killer's methodical cruelty, their twisted obsession, is finally laid bare. The ledger details the why, not for profit, not for passion, but for a warped sense of justice, a personal vendetta against a world they deemed corrupt, each victim a symbolic sacrifice in their deluded crusade. The blueprints show the how, the intricate planning, the hidden passages, the meticulous disposal, explaining how they eluded capture for so long. Weeks later, the city breathes a collective sigh of relief. Your name, Seth Corbin, once synonymous with disgrace, is now uttered with a different timbre. Not entirely redeemed, perhaps, not yet fully absolved, but the shadow of doubt has lifted. The headlines speak of your tenacity, your singular focus, the unorthodox methods that ultimately brought a ghost to justice. You don't return to the force. That life, with its rigid structure and internal politics, feels too constricting now. Instead, you find a new rhythm. It's quiet work, often solitary, poring over dusty files, spotting the overlooked anomaly, connecting the disparate threads that others have missed. Your small apartment, once a haven of self-imposed exile, now feels less like a prison and more like a sanctuary. The nightmares haven't entirely ceased, but they are less frequent, less suffocating. The faces of the victims, once a torment, now serve as a quiet resolve. You carry the weight of the past, an indelible mark, a permanent reminder of the cost of complacency, the insidious nature of evil. The storm has passed, leaving behind a scarred but stronger landscape, and you, Seth Corbin, stand ready to navigate its altered terrain. The hunt is over, but the watch, you realize, never truly ends.